Hello, my friends. Thank you for joining us for this conversation about intercultural missions. I'm Pastor Adam Klein, and I lead the intercultural engagement team for the Free Methodist Church in Canada. And today I'm joined by a few friends from Calgary, Alberta, West Springs Free Methodist Church. This is Keith Schnell, Herb Coburn, and Catherine Anastas Vital. And I just want to say welcome to all three of you. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I get everyone's name close enough?
Actually, Catherine, the final name is Vitali, is it not?
Yeah, Vitali.
All right. Well,
that's fine.
We got the contribution there. We're all here, and we at least all know our first names. I appreciate that. But the reason I asked for all of you to be here today is because you're all part of an incredibly important ministry that, from my understanding, was birthed out of the Free Methodist, the West Springs Free Methodist Church, and that is the Asylum Seekers Initiative Group, ASIG. And the story I have heard is that the ASIG, the Asylum Seekers Initiative Group, is a long-term ministry of refugee sponsorship and relationship, which I think is something Free Methodists across Canada really need to know more about. So we're going to take some time and get into the specifics and hear some of your personal story, Catherine, which will be very important for us. But to begin, I was hoping, Herb, we could start with you, and you could tell us about how all of this got started, but specifically why folks from West Springs Free Methodist were motivated to pursue refugee sponsorship.
Well, several years ago, when the conflict really expanded in Syria, and our country stepped forward to say they would take in 25,000 Syrian refugees, there were several people at our church that said, we should be able to do something about this somehow, some way. And one of the people was undergoing some treatment at a local hospital, and that's Joni Rain, and she met a priest there named Father Ephraim, who worked with Calgary Catholic Immigration Service. And she asked if she could bring people to meet with him and get some background on how we can help. And so we attended his church. I believe it's the Syrian Orthodox Church. I can't remember exactly. But and then we met with him afterwards, and we had quite a bit of information, that we had to digest from that meeting. And he was a wonderful person that, welcomed us and, anything at all we could do. And so we decided at that point that we were going to go forward and try and do something as a group to help 1, 2, 3, however many came our way. And I'm not sure what the total is now, but I think it's well over 50, all the different people from the various families that we're involved with. And so that's the why. There was just a general desire to help the situation, especially when the opportunity was presented through the government program. And that's that's how we got connected with Calgary Catholic Immigration Service, and they had some suggestions for us to get involved, and then on the other side of the coin, we became involved with Catherine and her family, who were already here. They were fortunate enough to be part of that 25,000, and my understanding, Catherine will relate it to us. It all happened really quickly, but we had an opportunity to help her family with learning English, and we were introduced by another friend of ours from the Men's Prayer Breakfast, and through that route, and then Keith and I started visiting with her family once a week, and it's developed into a friendship. And Catherine and her husband Christian are actually now part of the Asylum Seekers Group, and support us, give us suggestions, are right in there with whatever it is we decide to do. So it's been interesting to watch that evolution as well as they come forward. And so we didn't have a hand in sponsoring them, but certainly we've had some input into helping them acclimatize to Canada, to learn English, and and to encourage them. And we're hoping to help eventually bring other members of their family here. But things are so messed up in Syria, and the way our immigration department functions, you can't be a refugee if you live inside your own country. And so they have to leave the country in order to get refugee status, and yet nobody around them is welcoming any refugees.
Right.
So that
Right.
kind of stymies us in that particular regard.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and we can go on with Naeem and Rizal. They're a young couple that came to us through CCIS, and we were asked to help them out, and we agreed. And then they disappeared. We didn't know what happened to them, and once we were able, I don't know, what was it, Keith? About 10 months later, they finally reappeared, and we were told they're going to land at the airport in 2 or 3 weeks. So we got to work. We found an apartment, furnished it, made sure we had funds to help them out, and
Wow.
and then when they landed, and now they're part of the group too. They've done really well. Like when you see first how Catherine's family has adapted to Canada, and what she and Christian are doing now in terms of working with other people in need in Calgary and surrounding area, and then how Naeem and Razal have settled in, and Naeem is he's going to be a ticketed plumber here pretty quick. He's been apprenticed, and they've had a little baby boy, and I mean, I'm sure Naeem sleeps with a smile on his face. He just seems to be one of the happiest guys in the world. And it's rewarding for us to see how those two families, especially, have been accepted and are acclimatizing to Canada.
Right.
And then when we look at the Congolese and how they were connected to our churches, it was really quite entertaining. The day they first showed up, it was almost like an invasion. One family has 8, another one has 9, and they all arrived at the church on the same day, and they were looking for Linda Stryker, who was a member of our
Amazing.
congregation, and who was a missionary for decades
Right.
in Zimbabwe, and not Zimbabwe, Burundi, and areas there. And it turns out that Abutswa, who's Canadian name, he wants to be called William, but I like Abutswa, so I call him Abutswa. He and Linda pastored together in the Congo, and Mpenda, who is now he's got to be in his 30s now. Linda was his Sunday school teacher, so it was. And Linda had left for her winter residence already, so we phoned them, and I could just tell how excited she was by listening to her voice on the other end of they were speaking in Swahili. I couldn't understand a word, but they were all pretty excited about it. And so, the phrase I like to use is, when you throw that stone into the water, you never know where the ripple's going to come ashore. And that's truly, you wonder, who else she's touched and how they've been, how they have benefited from their interaction and such. So.
Right. Well, so much of what you said already, the thing that keeps coming up in my mind is how perfectly anchored the community of the church is to be to be a part of this work, to be the hands and feet of Christ in this way. I mean, talking about, the long-term commitment and preparedness, to the short notice of a few weeks of getting a residence, an apartment, and furniture and things together, to the connection even with Linda Stryker. I'm just curious, Keith, I want to ask you about this. When I think about that, the church being itself a community, a body in which, social skills and needs can be met, and just an immersion of connection and really hospitality. Often we'll phrase it that we're called to practice radical hospitality. And really it shouldn't be radical, but in light of the way we live often in our society, it appears to be radical because it's simply a Christ-like posture toward our global neighbors. near and far. And so I'm just curious, putting that in context in terms of radical hospitality and Christ-like posture toward our neighbors, and the church being perfectly fitted already to be that immersive experience for those seeking family and friends, and just being a part of a new culture. Have you witnessed the church, Keith, in your time being a part of it, being ready and eager to be a part of that? Has there been resistance or struggle in being that receiving end of it?
I really like what you're saying, Adam. My belief is that I think most Christians are that way. I think most Christians are wanting to serve. Most Christians know the gospel. They've heard, they know Christ's words about the poor, about the stranger in the land, and about all these things. And I think most Christians, including most Free Methodists in Canada, are ready to do it.
Right.
I think we lack opportunity. We look around like, what's there to do? And two, like our group, we didn't know where even to begin. We didn't know where to begin. But I have a firm belief, what you said, that most Christians have a heart for this and are ready to do it. Yeah. They just need an opportunity. They need a catalyst. Our catalyst was Father Ephraim,
right?
A priest, and Catherine and Chris. When we met them, things started happening, and so it's a matter of opportunity. It's a matter of getting going, getting started. But I think most people have the heart of Christ. I really believe that, and I think that's a very wonderful thing.
I'm going to expand on what Keith said there, if I may. That it's been a real connection for us to the broader community. We had a fundraising event at our house, and Catherine and Christian, we invited them to come and be part of it because we were raising funds. We called it One Syrian Night, and you should have seen the banquet that they put on, and it was all made by them, and it was all Middle Eastern or Syrian delicacies, and I've had many of the people that were here that night as well. When are we going to do that again? They and they're not necessarily members of our church either, and other people on the committee that have in the fundraising and such. I think the broader community has heard all of this, but they're saying, well, how do they get involved too? How can they help? And so whether it was collecting household items for people, or whether it was funds or whatever, there was enthusiastic response. And so, and you can involve other people in that. We have one person in our congregation who as a pastime, he really enjoys this. He buys and sells cars. Well, he got right into it. He was even wanting us to go out to Vancouver Island to pick up a car for one of the families. And we said, well, we're sure we can find one closer. But just the enthusiasm that it generates for being involved and not necessarily having to lead the project, but getting in there and doing something that everybody feels really good.
Well, and again, just this beautiful testimony of how, not just as you said, the larger community, like the church being that common ground and that vessel or that conduit for greater participation, for people being, as people of faith, as we would say, being a part of the work of the kingdom without even knowing it necessarily.
I'm going to add one more thing, and then I'm going to be quiet, and we're going to let Catherine talk. We've had assistance from other congregations as well, that like within the denomination, that wanted to do something, that had started doing things, especially fundraising. But even, to bring over a family of 4, I think the guide, and this is from 2018, is $32,000. And so that's a lot of dough to raise. And so we had another congregation who had started their fundraising, but realized they weren't going to get the goal. And they said, can we help you out by giving you this money? Well, you never say no to that, right? And so there's been other assistance that way too.
Right.
And so, it doesn't have to be an individual congregation. It could be a group of them.
Right. Yeah.
Get together and do that as well. Right.
So. Absolutely.
It's all yours, Catherine.
That's great. No, yeah, Catherine. I mean, we need to hear from you, but at the same time, we've kind of painted the picture, the big picture. But you have been the one to walk through this and experience this, and so we need to hear your perspective through all of this. Now, you and your family, from what I understand, fled Syria in the midst of a civil war, but you have gone through all of this and received and found asylum here in Canada. Tell us a bit about what you had to leave in order to come here, and then what the experience has been like.
Like, you know, the journey has like two parts, leaving parts and arriving parts. Like both of them actually were very, very difficult.
Right.
Like emotionally, logistically, it was challenging. But it wasn't like a choice. We have no like more options or other options. Like everyone knows how like difficult the war was, and like the war destroyed everything in Syria. Like it took
Right.
the whole country like many years back. Destroys people's lives, like economy, infrastructure, death everywhere, kidnapping, you know.
Yeah.
So basically it wasn't about like my life or my husband's life. It was actually about like the physical and mental well-being of our sons.
Right.
So we made the decision to leave Syria. Like the most difficult point was leaving family and friends. Actually, to leave your mother, to leave your brothers there, to like give up like the whole strong ties that connecting you to your society.
Yeah.
It wasn't like easy. It was so hard. Like leaving your house. Like, we worked hard for every detail in that house, like for long years, to put it in place. Like it wasn't easy. Like medical careers. Like both of us was a physician.
Wow.
And all of you knows how hard to be like a physician and a specialist, how much you have to work hard.
Right.
Like to build a good reputation. Like we worked hard for decades to build our careers. And then like an earthquake, everything vanished and disappeared in one moment. This is like a different story, you know, by itself.
Right.
Leaving the church, leaving all our like brothers and sisters in Christ there, and they are like they were suffering and they still suffering till now. And for what? Like for nothing wrong they did. You know, they are paying the price like for others' mistakes. Those are like all those points were like the hardest point that we left behind. And to arrive here and to find like other challenges, like it's full of challenges, you know, when you arrive here.
Yeah.
Now, like as Herb mentioned, when we arrived here, a mutual friend, she introduced us to Herb because he offered like to help us improving our English skills.
Okay.
And then through Herb, we met Keith, and through both of them, we met like the rest of the group. We were like dealing with counselors and you know, like over Canada, there is a lot of like agencies, settlement agencies.
Yep.
They are helping people like providing different services for refugees and newcomers. But like what we found with the asylum seekers group was totally different. Very different. Like those people, they are employees doing job.
Right.
Right?
Right.
This is good, very good.
Yeah.
But it's not like, it's totally different from like what we found with this group. Like what we found with this group was like really, they gave us like the feeling of loving family.
Right.
This is very important. Like they did whatever they could.
Right.
To like help us overcome like the challenges that we faced in Canada.
Yeah.
They provided financial assistance when needed. They provided helping in English.
Right.
You know, looking for education opportunities, social life. They give us always the sense of family.
Mm.
I can't like forget the first like event when it was like the Thanksgiving, when Herb invited us to his home. He was with his family, and he gave us like the sense of this family. Like they kept coming to our place every week, whatever the weather is. You know, the weather in Calgary is like very nice. and and you know, they provide for us like references for work. They are great references. Use them for work. Like, and when we got like the Canadian citizenship,
Yeah.
they were, all of them, they were there celebrating with us. It was great. Like, when you miss the feeling of the family, you can value more
Right.
this attitude, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they were always for us in every step of the way,
Mm.
you know? So really, we saw, we touched the face of Jesus Christ in all their actions.
Amen.
It's reflected in their actions.
Yeah.
Like in every step that they were doing to help us build not like a life, a productive life in Canada.
Right.
This is what makes them unique, very unique, and different from the other groups. And at the end, they like give us another opportunity, like to be part of their group.
Right.
You can't imagine like how amazing this feeling to feel that you are able to give back to the society again.
Right.
Really, it's amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, they are great.
I mean, it's such a beautiful testimony, such a beautiful and essential story for so many of us to hear from beginning to end. And again, just Catherine, the way that you bring that, tie it into the expressions of the seeing the face of Christ. You know, I mean, that in the beginning should be our motivation. I mean, as Keith talked about, that burden. So many of us as faithful followers of Jesus, I mean, we have that burden, and we hear your story, and we know that something must be done. Certainly the challenge, you know, especially, you know, Herb, when we hear the things, the insurmountable tasks, it appears at times, of all that's involved and be ready at hand. I mean, the way that the community responds is so beautiful. But at the same time, I understand those who hear this and say this is such a large task, but they can't deny the conviction, right? The burden, and especially hearing your story. So, Catherine, I'm just curious if, like, what would you say to some of us in churches across Canada who know the need, who hear your story, but aren't quite sure about those first steps, or maybe what is it do you think they need to hear or should hear to take those first steps?
Like, I would say to them, like, please keep in mind what Jesus Christ said. Like, truly, I tell you, whatever you did to the least of those, like, brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.
Amen.
Please use the gifts and resources that God gave to you to help people who are in need, like who are in need for love, for care, for support, you know?
Yep.
And believe me, you will never find like better places than these groups to show the love of Jesus Christ.
Amen. I
I would love to say to our group in Calgary, like, big, and a huge thank you from the depths of our hearts to all of you for being in our life. We really love you all. And we really like feel blessed that we had you. Like, God bless you and your work.
It's mutual.
Yes.
God is good. Wow. Just to bring this to a close, I thank you all for sharing so much and so personally. Keith, I just want to maybe just ask you, folks across Canada and the Free Methodist Church who might watch this and share this with their congregation, you know, as our denomination is a share agreement holder with the Ministry of Immigration in terms of refugee sponsorship. So certainly churches can reach out to the Ministry Center and learn more about First Steps. But can they also reach out maybe to ASIG, or maybe you could just share some last tips or suggestions in terms of where they can go?
Yeah, I thank you. We're open. Anyone that'd like to contact us at West Springs Free Methodist Church in Calgary, please do. We would love to have a conversation with you and help you on this endeavor. If you'd like to even become somewhat involved with us, we're open to that. I believe in connection. I think connection is really a good thing. There's many apps. There's a lot of, sometimes like with us, we have local agencies that have many years of experience that you can team with beyond our present denominational borders. And I think that's a good way to go as well. But open invitation, connect with Herb or connect with me through the church.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for taking the time and joining me for this conversation and sharing so much of what we did. Just bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
You're welcome.